Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you have credit card debt, student loans, or any kind of personal loan sitting on your shoulders right now, this video might genuinely save you thousands of dollars. I'm not exaggerating. Today we are breaking down two of the most talked about debt payoff strategies in personal finance, the debt avalanche and the debt snowball. You've probably heard these terms thrown around by finance YouTubers, but very few people actually explain the real math behind them or tell you which one is scientifically better for your situation. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which method saves you the most money, which one keeps you motivated so you don't quit halfway. And this is the part almost nobody talks about: how to combine both strategies into one hybrid system that high-income earners and smart planners actually use in real life. So if you're serious about becoming debt-free faster, smash that like button and let's get straight into it. Okay, so first, let's understand the actual disagreement here. When you have multiple debts, let's say a credit card, a personal loan, and a student loan, the big question is, which one do you attack first with your extra money? There are two schools of thought. The first one is called the Debt Avalanche Method. This is the math nerd approach. Here, you rank all your debts, from the highest interest rate to the lowest. Then you throw every single extra dollar at the debt with the highest interest rate, while just paying the minimum on everything else. Once that highest interest debt is gone, you roll that payment into the next highest one. The entire goal here is simple: minimize the total interest you pay over time. This is mathematically the smartest way to become debt-free, period. But, and this is important, it can feel emotionally slow. If your highest interest debt also happens to be a huge balance, you might not see a debt fully disappear for a long time. And that can be discouraging for a lot of people. Now the second approach is the Debt Snowball Method. This one flips the logic completely. Instead of looking at interest rates, you look at your balances. You pay off the smallest balance first, no matter what the interest rate is. Why? Because psychology matters. When you completely wipe out a debt, even a small one, your brain gets a dopamine hit. You feel like you're actually winning. That motivation snowballs, pun intended, and keeps you consistent for the months and years it takes to become debt-free. The trade-off? You'll pay a bit more in total interest compared to Avalanche. So here's the real question this video is going to answer. Is that peace of mind from Snowball actually worth paying extra interest for? Let's run the real numbers. Let's make this real with an actual example, because numbers on a slide don't mean much until you see them applied to a real situation. Imagine you're a high-income earner and you're carrying a total of $100,000 in debt spread across 4 different accounts. You also have an extra $1,000 a month that you can throw at debt on top of your minimum payments. Here's what your 4 debts look like. Debt A is a credit card. Balance $8,000. And look at that interest rate, 24.99%. That is brutal. Credit cards are almost always the most expensive debt you'll ever carry. Debt B is a private student loan, $32,000 at 11.5%. Interest, still expensive, but nowhere near as bad as the credit card. Debt C is a personal loan, $15,000 at 14% interest. And Debt D is a Direct Plus loan. That's a type of federal student loan, $45,000, but only 8.05% interest. Notice this is actually your biggest balance, but your lowest rate. So look at this carefully. Under the Avalanche Method, you'd attack debtor first because it has the highest rate, even though it's not the biggest balance. Under the Snowball Method, you'd also start with Debt A, because, coincidentally, it also happens to be the smallest balance. Interesting overlap, right? But watch what happens next. That's where these two methods start to diverge, and that's where the real money gets decided. Alright, This is the slide you've been waiting for, the actual results. Using the avalanche method on this exact portfolio, you become completely debt-free in 43 months. That's about 3.5 years. And over that entire time, you pay a total of $18,420 in interest. Now using the snowball method on the same portfolio, you become debt-free in 45 months, just 2 months longer. But you end up paying $21,890 in interest. Do the math on that difference. That's $3,470 more in interest with snowball. That's an 18.8% interest penalty just for choosing the emotionally easier path. Now, in this specific example, the payoff order actually ends up being almost identical. Debt A, then debt C, then debt B, then debt D, because the balance size and the interest rate order happen to overlap quite a bit in this portfolio. But even with that overlap, snowball still costs you more because it delays attacking the higher interest debts by even small windows of time, and interest compounds every single day you wait. So here's the takeaway. If your debts are like this, where small balances and high rates roughly line up, the gap between the two methods might be small. But if you have a debt that's both large and high interest, that gap can explode into tens of thousands of dollars. Always run your own numbers before deciding. Now here's something almost nobody talks about when they're giving generic debt advice. Online, not all debt is created equal, especially when it comes to student loans. And this mistake can cost you way more than just extra interest. If you have federal student loans, things like direct unsubsidized loans or Grad Plus loans, you actually have some serious safety nets built in by the government. You can get on an income-driven repayment plan, sometimes called IDR or SAVE, where your monthly payment is based on how much you actually earn. You might qualify for public service loan forgiveness if you work in government or a non-profit. And if you lose your job or hit a rough patch, you can apply for deferment or forbearance to pause your payments without going into default. Now compare that to private student loans, the ones from lenders like Sophie, Earnest, or Laurel Road. These loans offer zero, I repeat, zero, federal protections, no forgiveness programs, no income-based plans, nothing. In exchange, they sometimes offer lower interest rates if you have great credit, usually somewhere in the 8 to 13% range. Here's the trap. A lot of people refinance their federal loans into private ones just to get a lower interest rate. And they don't realize that once you do that, you permanently give up every single one of those federal protections. There's no going back. If you lose your job next year, that private lender does not care. You owe them the full payment, on time, every time. So before you refinance ANY federal loan, ask yourself, am I confident enough in my income and job stability to give up these safety nets forever? For high private loan interest rates, yes, attack them aggressively with the avalanche method. But for federal loans, especially if forgiveness might apply to you, sometimes the smartest move is to pay only the minimum and let time do its thing. Okay, here's a power move that most people never think about before they start their debt payoff journey: refinancing arbitrage. Before you even start your avalanche or snowball plan, it's worth checking if you can lower the interest rate on your existing debt entirely. Here's a real example. Let's say your private student loan is sitting at 11.5% interest. If you have decent credit and stable income, you might be able to refinance that exact same loan into a new 5-year fixed loan at around 5.75%. Think about what that actually does. You're cutting your interest rate almost in half. And here's why that's such a big deal. When your interest rate drops that much, a much bigger chunk of every single payment you make goes toward the actual principal balance, instead of getting eaten up by interest. That means your accelerated extra payments become even more powerful once you start your avalanche cascade. So the smart sequence is refinance first to shrink your interest rates wherever it's safe to do. So remember, don't touch federal loans if you might need those protections, and then start attacking your debts with extra payments. You're basically stacking two strategies on top of each other. Lower the interest rate and pay it off faster. That combination is where the real acceleration happens. Now let's put everything together. Because here's the truth, you don't actually have to. Choose ONLY Avalanche or ONLY Snowball. The smartest approach combines both, and that's exactly what we are calling the hybrid blueprint. It has 4 simple phases. Phase 1. Refinance your unprotected debt. Before anything else, go lower the interest rates on your private student loans and high interest personal loans wherever possible, through private refinancing or consolidation. We just talked about why this matters. Phase 2. Execute snowball quick wins in your first 60 days. If you have any small balances under about $3,000, wipe them out immediately. Yes, this isn't the mathematically perfect move, but it's intentional. It builds early momentum, frees up cash flow from those minimum payments, and, most importantly, it keeps you motivated so you don't burn out and give up in month 2. Phase 3. Once those quick wins are cleared, shift into pure avalanche mode. Now you take 100% of your extra monthly money and throw it directly at whichever remaining debt has the highest interest rate. This is where the real math-driven savings kick in. Phase 4. Automate everything. Set up automatic transfers so that the moment one debt is fully paid off, its entire payment amount automatically rolls over and gets added to the next target debt. This is called a payment cascade, and it removes willpower from the equation completely. You don't have to remember to increase a payment manually. It just happens. This 4-phase system gives you the emotional momentum of snowball in the beginning and the mathematical efficiency of avalanche for the rest of your journey. Best of both worlds. All right, let's wrap this up with the 4 things I want you to actually remember from this video. Number 1. Avalanche wins on pure math. If you are the type of person who can stay disciplined without needing quick emotional wins, Avalanche will always save you the most money in interest, guaranteed. Number 2. Snowball wins on behavior. If you've tried to pay off debt before and given up halfway through, Snowball might genuinely be the better choice for you specifically, even if it costs a little more in interest. A plan you actually finish beats a perfect plan you abandon. Number 3. Federal protections are not free to give up. Before you refinance any federal student loan for a lower rate, understand that you are permanently walking away from income-driven repayment, forgiveness programs, and deferment options. Make that decision with your eyes wide open. And number 4, the hybrid model beats either strategy alone. Refinance first, get a couple of quick emotional wins, then shift into full avalanche mode, and automate the whole cascade, so you never have to think about it again. Quick disclaimer before you go, I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and this video is for educational purposes only. Definitely talk to a real financial professional before making big decisions like refinancing federal debt. If this video helped you understand your own debt payoff strategy a little better, do me a huge favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and drop a comment telling me which method you're going to use, Avalanche, Snowball, or the hybrid blueprint. I read every single comment. See you in the next one.